welcome to another one of our Monday afternoon sessions, A Day in the Life. We are super excited to have Brett Thompson with us this afternoon. Brett is the CEO of New Form Foods. He's not only the CEO, he's also one of the founders of New Form Foods. So, Brett, welcome. Thank you so much for taking some time on this Monday evening to talk to us. We're very excited to have you here.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me. It's really good to be here, and I'm excited to have this conversation.
Okay, awesome. So, New Form Foods. New Form Foods is a biotech company that helps food producers to develop and scale cultivated animal products. That's a nice long sentence. If you could break it down for us, what does that mean?
Yeah, I'll break it into the sort of 2 or 3 main components of it, maybe starting at the end. What we mean by cultivated meat is the cultivation of cells. So what we do is we take a selection of cells from an animal, harmlessly done, and then recreate the conditions of the animal just outside of the animal. We're currently doing it at our facility here in Woodstock in Cape Town, Woodstock Salt River, and we've been able to take cells and produce prototypes of beef burgers, meatballs, and the like from cows, so bovine cells, from lamb, as well as from pork or pigs. So those are the kind of animal products that we've been working with at the moment. We are hopefully building a platform out of this, meaning that we will be agnostic to the species that we work with. That species and final product will be defined with the companies that we work with in the future, and that's why we're an enabler. So it's opposed to us saying we're going to make the burgers. What we are doing is focusing on the technology that drives the ability to produce this at scale. And just sort of for everyone's information, it's essentially there's 3 components of what we do. We take cells, so we do a lot of what we call tissue culture here in the lab and in our facility. Then once we've gotten those cells ready, we feed them something that helps them grow, which is called media. And then the final component is the actual engineering or the sort of bioprocessing. And interestingly enough, I can't remember who your listenership is from. We've got Stellenbosch grads, a Rhodes grad, all from, mainly Stellenbosch and Rhodes grads at all different aspects of what we do.
Okay, that's very interesting. So I understand what you mean by there being different elements to New Form Foods. It's not just that you are producing the cultivated meat at your offices in Woodstock, but you're also, you mentioned enabling other companies or producers who might be interested in the product. Maybe you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, so at the stage that we're at, we are relatively early stage. We started in 2020. Majority of the time in the beginning is just R&D. Being able to prove the concept that it can be done. And now it's the how do we scale it? And the way to do it is a couple of ways. Companies sometimes raise lots of money. They work with what we call venture capital, VC. They go out and do it all themselves. We looked at doing that in the first 2 years, and then we realized that we didn't want to be a company trying to do everything. We wanted to very much specialize in an area, and that is the sort of tech that kind of is the 0 to 1. If you're familiar with that expression, how do you go from essentially nothing to something that a company, a retailer, a meat company, a seafood company can actually take and then put it within their own value chain and develop that with us. So our goal as an enabler is to work with companies, to work with the sort of experts in the field of animal production. We are scientists and engineers. We don't like to believe that we know everything. We know quite a lot. But the ability to sort of manufacture this type of technology at scale, we believe is a faster route to do it with other companies, and that's the role that we're doing, and we're engaging with quite a few local and some companies abroad with potential who are our potential customers for taking this on.
Okay, so we've got a couple of questions coming in already, but before we get into that, I have a question for you. So you've mentioned animal products, but you also said something about seafood. So can you do this with seafood, or is this something?
Yeah, it's very interesting. So essentially what we do, if you look at an animal, is recreate a few sort of key things. What the nutrients that the animal consumes through its life. And let me just also note something that I think I should have said in the beginning. why do we do this? Well, I do this because I stopped eating meat 15 years ago, and I really want to have impact with my career, and I think I've had some. And then, but there's a significant environmental advantage of being able to do this in a controlled environment. If you look at South Africa's weather patterns, for example, infrequent rainfall and zoonotic diseases born from animals, these things are all reasons to do what we do. It requires a fraction of the land. It requires a fraction of the resources and energy to some degree. And then what we do is what a cow takes 18 months, we can do it in around about a month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's again trying to optimize what those things. Now, how do we go from different species? So we've been able to do it with mammalian tissue culture. Mammalian tissue culture is different to avian. It's different to marine. It's different to plant, obviously. So the main kind of factors that are kept in place with mammalian is 37 degrees. That's the body temperature of everybody on this call, unless you're feeling a bit sick. And then those cells are then fed and given a substrate or a structure, or they do it themselves. And then the feed of what is essentially glucose. It's amino acids, it's protein. It's what we consume, but just in a liquid format, because there's obviously no digestive system. Now, that's how we roughly do it with, and then there's oxygen and all these things to keep these cells flourishing and excited and growing. And then we harvest them. The difference between seafood, for example, is essentially just a couple of degrees. We've not been able to do it just yet at prototype level, but we're putting those plans in place. And it's around 16, 17 degrees, obviously, to maintain those cells. It's not 37 because it's cold water. And then there's an additional saline solution that we've sort of combined with the media that we currently use. So salt, roughly, and a colder temperature. There's a little bit more to it, but those sort of at the cell line, like at the cell line development time or component of our process, there are things that we do to the cells when we take, but we still take it from an animal. It's a biopsy from an animal, and then what we feed it, those cells, also differs the makeup of that, so that you get different textures and different tastes. Sort of later on.
Yeah. So did I hear you right? It takes what you said, 30 days?
No, so roughly. So yeah, what we do with our mammalian cells, we've been able to do it for beef and lamb in 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay. All right. Okay. That's amazing. And then you're literally going from the lab to the table.
At that stage, we're going from a cell to a meatball. And then now we're also at a smaller scale. Keep that in mind. But it seems, and we've the science seems pretty strong, that it doesn't really matter. Cells are natural; they're just growing, so it doesn't really matter the scale. So you can really get a big exponential growth as you scale, but the time frame doesn't seem to change that much.
Okay, that's very interesting. The question that I expected, and it's popped up. If you are a vegetarian or a vegan, is this product? Can this person consume this product? Is it actually an animal product?
Yeah.
At consumption, so to speak.
Yeah, I think it's. So I haven't eaten conventional meat since 2008, personally. My co-founder Taz, similar timeline. It's quite ironic, I know, that the two people running this business haven't eaten meat in 30 years combined. So, however, we've eaten the products, every single thing that we've ever made, we've eaten from our facility. So it isn't plant-based. It is derived from an animal. However, I believe, and this is someone who's spent 15 years now, 16 years working on it for ethical reasons, I think it's a way more ethical product.
Yeah.
Whereas you don't have to kill an animal. And I think that's the reason. So now there's a lot of, I'd say, reasons why vegetarians and vegans wouldn't want to eat this product. And they're not our target audience. They're not who we're focusing on. it's a small population. I mean, I know I've been part of it for a while. So they're not our audience. We're looking at people that eat meat who are looking to cut back or who are looking for higher welfare standards in their own meat, and so cultivated meat would kind of fall part of that.
Okay. All right. So 15, 16 years. Let's take this back quite a while. I see from your profile on LinkedIn, you study finance and economics, and now you are running a food tech company. So maybe you could talk us through your journey a little bit. How did you go from one end of the scale to the other?
Yeah. How did I go from a guaranteed job making money to one that's less though?
Yeah.
Less of that. I in a quick nutshell, wanted to make money when I was in high school. I wanted to I don't want to study something that was like a commercial degree, and I wanted to make some money from it. So I chose business science at UCT, and I did finance CA just because I sat down at the first lecture hall where they told you you got to choose, what you needed to do. And I looked at the person on my left and right, and I said, "What are you going to study?" And they both said CA. So that was the total of my research on my degree, which probably in hindsight. And then luckily I was very terrible at both those majors, and managed to essentially get kicked out of university, got back in, finished up, and then went through to Stellenbosch to do a postgrad in economics. And economics is something that I'm, still an armchair economist. I believe it's one of my. It's an interest of mine that I keep going. And then, but at around about that time, I just stopped eating meat because of there's a UCT philosopher. I don't know if he's there anymore, but David Benatar. He's did a thing on applied ethics, and I just found the course very interesting and stimulating. And one of the discussions was on eating animals, and I kind of wasn't able to put the toothpaste back in the tube, and that was it. I wrote my thesis at Stellenbosch on this topic, on economics and vegetarianism. I somehow merged those two. I don't know how I did it, but they gave me the approval to finish it, and I got a decent mark there. And then I was starting to do my master's, and again, I was looking at the demand for meat in South Africa. That was and looking at the factors around that. And then I just got a job and realized I liked, tired of living off baked beans in Stellenbosch. Let me get a job in Durban. So I got a job in Durban. I worked at a company called Fry's, which is a manufacturer of meat alternatives. I was there roughly 10 years, and on and off, and that job gave me an opportunity to go work at a non-profit in Berlin. And Fry's had given me the opportunity throughout my time there to do a lot of animal advocacy work, which I found quite stimulating and exciting. And after that, I worked at an NGO for 2 years in Berlin in the internationalization of that non-profit. And at that time, and this is when the story kind of moves on, I just started meeting all these scientists and entrepreneurs from all over the world. And they were working on this new exciting technology called cultivated meat. And I was like, this is super cool. I come back to South Africa, and within 2 years, I was like, I connected up with another founder or two, Tasnima, I've already mentioned, and we were like, the opportunity in Africa is massive. Let's be the first to go out and do it. So we were the first, previously called Mzansi Meat, to actually cultivate meat in Africa. And now we are where we are today because of that. But that's my trailblaze of how I got from being a dropout CA, to a would-be founder.
Yeah. Well, it's a fantastic trailblaze story. So thank you for sharing that. So now, CEO of New Form Foods, the webinar series is, labeled A Day in the Life of. So Brett, tell us, what is a day like in the life of a CEO in the biotech industry?
It's a very hard question. I obviously knew this was coming. And interesting enough, we were all one of our investors brought a whole bunch of founders together in London, which is some of the perks and some of the part of what we do. So we do get to travel a bit as founders when you get the right investors who are keen to get you on the road. And he said that was the first, well, when he's doing due diligence on his potential investees, that's one of the questions he asks. He's like, what do you do in a day? And part of the reason I also tell that story is that, like, a lot of what I do, a significant portion is I'm just driving the company, and we are fundraising. So we're an early stage biotech company compared to maybe starting another. There's other types of companies. If you started a restaurant, you wouldn't be going fundraising all the time. But if you start a biotech company, you're fundraising because of the capital required to get it done. So what I'm essentially trying to do every single day is develop my own networks, develop put Newform on the top of mind of thousands of people who make the right decisions and who can unlock finances, who can unlock partnerships, and who will want to work for us. I mean, ultimately, I'm trying to create an environment where people say, let's go work for Newform. It looks like an amazing company. So what a day looks like is I'm going to give you like an ideal day, and obviously give you some caveats because there's no such thing.
Of course, yeah.
But I do wake up and I do try and meditate. So I know this sounds like a cliche. I know it sounds like I listen to Joe Rogan or something, but I don't really. But I do get up and I meditate, and I find like that is a significantly important part of my day. I try go to a coffee shop. I almost go to a coffee shop every day as well before I go to the office. I find I get through emails. I get like a time where I can just kind of think, write some notes down, plan my day. That's where I kind of plan my day. And I actually can show you. I have a old school. I write notes.
Nice.
So I get through my emails. I write notes of what I need to do, and for sort of the short term and long term, and then sort of in a what kind of typifies a day at a Newform for me is quite a lot of strategy development. I mean, look, on average, I'm spending 80% of my time in some way trying to generate either clients, customers, or fundraising. But there's still like a significant amount of strategy that needs to happen between me and my co-founder on every aspect of a business, because we're developing the business as it goes. So what is the strategy with that? It's an ongoing discussion. It requires a lot of reflection and refinement. And the cool thing when you are a small company, you can be agile. So you kind of like strategizing as the company's going, and you're going, we went from 2 to 10 people. So it's working on ongoing this project of 10 people trying to develop something. After that, besides post lunch, I try and stick with my meetings. So I'm an afternoon meetings guy. I just find I'm fresh in the morning. That's like sort of my deep work, and as I say, like working on strategy documents or working on plans for recruitment or reviewing potential R&D plans for the upcoming quarter. And then in the sort of afternoon, what I'm looking at is a lot of I pitch a lot. So I think I pitched once or twice today. I can't remember.
Oh wow!
So I pitch, so me and my co-founder, but I try drive this. I'm pitching every single day, and that's the cool thing of trying to take. You get 20 minutes sometimes, half an hour. And so what I'm doing is taking 4 years of work and then putting it into 5 minutes, and then talking about the next 10 years and how do we get it done. And those pitches are aimed at either investors, so venture capital, not private equity, but VC impact investors, government types. That's the kind of one focus. And then the other pitch that I'm basically doing almost every day, or at least trying to get done every day, is trying to get potential clients. So how do we describe as business development to get commercial milestones together? And those things really combine. And then, there's just reviewing and improving documents and approving purchase orders, et cetera, et cetera. So there's that kind of stuff as well, budgets and that. But for the most part, that's what I do. And then try to get a game of squash or paddle. Obviously, I play paddle because I'm in Cape Town. And and that's I think where we met is there's a lot of networking. So in the evenings, at least once or twice a week, I'm at a networking event. I'm going for dinner with an investor. I'm talking to a senior team member to like, what do we do about the next 6 months or something along those lines. So I find it incredibly stimulating. Sometimes it's incredibly not stimulating, and it's a lot of mundane emailing 100 people and asking them for potential funding. It's painful, but yeah, there's a nice combination between all of that, which yeah, and then I also just, hopefully I'm trying to create an environment where I've got a team of 8 smart R&D folk that allows them to go out and do some cool stuff and develop some incredible technology. I think that's ultimately what a founder can do when they're not like me, not technical.
Okay. There's 1,000 questions that I have for you, but I want to start at a specific point. You spoke about, the thousands of emails that you send to potential investors on a daily basis, and I can't help but draw a similarity for our audience, which is students and graduates, either finishing their studies, about to go into the workplace, where they're sending thousands of copies of their CVs to employers. And, we all know how the employment situation is in South Africa. And there's, it's not a nice feeling for the students and graduates when they just don't receive answers, or it's rejection upon rejection kind of a thing. From the thousands of emails, obviously you get some interest, with New Form Foods, and some where you perhaps don't receive a lot of interest, or you're, perhaps not any responses. How do you mentally deal with that, and how do you keep going? Keep pushing forward.
Look, I don't know. I just, and this is like the part where when people ask me about running a company, particularly like the company that we're structured, that startup, which requires capital. A lot of companies don't require startup capital. So they can just start and they can bootstrap and sell, and that's how they make their money, and they have to get clients. But with us, from day one, we were pitching. I guess from the beginning, I had no idea what I was doing. I was working with somebody who had a little bit more idea than I did. He was my original co-founder. And so there was, I almost cringe at the first 12 months at what we did and how we went about it. But having said that, it's quite good to get those things out earlier the way. So we just learned a hell of a lot during that time. So there isn't one other way to look at it besides that it's actually helping you constantly trying to articulate like your message, whether it's the message of I want to work for you, or give me a chance to be an intern, or invest in my company. It pushes you to constantly always having to adapt that message and finding out the refinement. And I'll maybe even say, as somebody that gets a lot of students, and not saying people mustn't respond and send me an email if they want to work for us, but we get a lot of cold calls, and I get a lot of my own personal LinkedIn, and it's like somebody sends me 6 pages and I'm just like, what are you doing? So I think, how do I keep going? Well, I've learned a hell of a lot, and I've crafted the message for New Form Foods a lot over the last 4 years. And I think that you have to keep yourself motivated by saying, okay, at least it's not as terrible as it was a year ago. And that's not a nice thing to frame it like, but I think that's how I did. I felt like we're getting better at doing it. I felt like we got quicker to get somebody saying no, which is even more important often. And I think it just gives you thick skin. I remember my first job interview, and it was with one of the big banks. I won't say who. And it was like an internship program. And like, firstly, I'm so glad that it went as badly as it did, because, doing something I find relatively stimulating, opposed to possibly working behind a spreadsheet for my whole life. That never would have worked. But anyway, the point is that it went so badly that it kind of steered me in a different direction. And I think that's also what you're putting yourself out there gives you information and filters you across to where you probably need to go. The only thing is, there isn't a quick way to do it. It is painful, and it is a lot of rejection. I mean, the amount of rejection that I've received over the last 4 years, when you're telling people you want to grow meat in the lab, they think you need to be checked. So like, that was that was just constantly believing that what you believe in matters. And I think there are similarities between what we do and what a student could do. And there's ways to build your network, even if you think you don't know anyone, or you're fresh out of varsity, or you're not even finishing varsity. I think there's ways to build your own social capital, and I'm not going to go into the details about that. But the people that get jobs, it's not the first time I've heard from them.
No, for sure.
And it's like, they know someone who works at the company, or they sent a CV, or they've like attended one of our, we used to have a lot of, we still do it, but a lot of networking events. The guys would rock up at this and just like stick their hand up and, not ask for a job. Don't do that in front of a crowd. That is just no. But like, stick your hand up, ask a question, come afterwards. Like, I'm not saying all companies are as receptive as we are, but we definitely are than most. Unless there's someone on this call who's applied for a job and we didn't respond, which then I apologize. But it's constantly just moving forward, and knowing that like your level at the stage when you're just a student coming out of varsity or an early stage startup is you're on the bottom of the pile. So you got to work up, and it is just, it's time, and you do get there eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about those opportunities. So we know what you studied and we know about your journey, but for our audience, let's talk about the types of degrees, job opportunities in your industry.
Happy. I'll try to talk broadly and maybe specifically to a company like us and bioprocessing. I think broadly, what makes a founder, and I sometimes prefer to be a founder than a CEO. I think a founder is probably more apt in terms of the stage that we're at. But I think as a founder, like, you're just problem solving every day.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have mentioned that when you asked me, but all I do is get presented problems, and then you got to solve them. And that's like, you don't really need a degree for that, to be honest. You just need to be the kind of person that can see opportunity, and like it's so often that, like, I don't know, you just like, you when somebody presents like, fuck, I can't do, sorry, I don't know if I can swear on this, but I can't like do this, or there's something stuck, or I've tried this approach, and I get to like zoom in and be like with fresh eyes, say this is how you could do it. Like that's a skill that I think a founder has, and I think that's a very rare skill. And it's a very generalist skill, because you've got to like be able to have light touches on a lot of things. Like I have a light touch on HR, I have to have a light touch on R&D, on the commercial, on a range of things. And I think that kind of, from a founder's perspective, that's that I think you don't really get taught that at university. I think they shy away from that because they want you to go down a channel. So yeah, I think that's something that maybe from a founder's perspective. From a from a biotech company or a food tech company, like we're 80% R&D. So people that are working for us have expertise in stem cell research, tissue culture, so like vaccine development. We've got a guy that his background was actually making wine, but now he's working with us in the realm of like what we feed the cells. There's a lot of work, if there are engineers on this call, like on the material science side. I mean, that is not a new, but a very exciting realm. I think material science is a big, is within food particularly, there's a lot of potential. We've got a lot of engineers, chemical engineers, guys involved in bioprocessing, really like, looking at the flow of liquid. I mean, that's what we're roughly doing, and how does cells work with that? And we're trying to basically marry biology with that engineering, or hardware and software. So that software.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I can't believe I have to do this when you're in the middle of your sentence, but we are running out of time.
Cool.
I'm going to email you a couple of questions from our audience that we haven't gotten to, and also I'd like to do a little thing for social media, just so that you can finish the kinds of opportunities available in the industry. But for now, I have to say goodbye, and thank you so much for appearing on our show. It was great talking to you, and I hope you had some fun too.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.